Thank you very much for inviting me. Of course, it includes KP, who introduced us and also introduced me to Osho and Osho's work. And so I got to introduce Osho's work to Milton Erickson, and then, of course, the other way around. And so there's been a lot of support along the way for me to further my understanding and teaching of meditation and hypnosis. A lot of you know I teach self-hypnosis, which is the name of one of my books. But I do remember when I was sitting in Dr. Erickson's office and I had chronic back pain, I'd had it for years, wondering, is this hypnosis with this world's expert going to help me get rid of my pain? Because I had been to a lot of doctors all around the New England area before I moved to California, and just sitting in the waiting room, just saying, please, please let this be the doctor that can help me. I don't want to live with this for the rest of my life. And that went on and on and on until I met Dr. Erickson. But it didn't happen right away. It didn't happen immediately. It took a lot of practice. I had the advantage that he got into the field of hypnosis and self-hypnosis because of his pain. He had polio as a youngster and was not even supposed to live past 17. I met him when he was 75. So that tells you a lot about him. I remember one of his really intelligent students, when I started studying with him, everybody either had an MD or PhD. I didn't even have a master's. I just finished college. So I was the least experienced and probably the person that people were the least interested in. But I was the only person that got into the field because of my pain. So now I know that's why Dr. Erickson was interested in training me. He thought I had this special advantage because I was coming into it for my own reasons. But sitting in his office, wondering if it was going to work, and sitting there and having pain and trying everything, being open, listening to all the other smart people in the room, it was difficult because the main technique in hypnosis, Dr. Erickson felt all hypnosis was self-hypnosis because people go as deep as they want to go, or they stay as light as they want to stay. So it's really up to self-hypnosis to experience it. And the technique was primarily being the observer, to observe yourself, to observe your pain, body, emotions, stream of consciousness, which of course had a lot to do with what my brother Prem, KP, was doing in India with Osho. A lot of the meditations were about being the observer, stepping back, observing your life, your head, your heart, your moods, your body, your emotions. So they had that in common. And it really wasn't working for me. And so that was kind of frustrating. I stayed with it steadily every single day, couple of years into the third year, just really trying to get this observer, witness, watcher to relax and help me understand my pain, what was going on with my body emotionally. The pain was coming from being born missing part of L4 and L5, so it was a congenital. You could see it in the x-ray what was wrong, but the pain was because all the nerves were being pinched, and so it was a real pain. Of course, it had emotional factors, but no matter how much I observed it, and no matter how much I watched it, no matter how often I was the witness, I wasn't able to really reduce the pain very much. And I found that my observer, my witness, my watcher was critical and helpful, but more parental. You know you're not getting it right. You know there's other people in the room that are getting it much faster than you. You know you might not get it. So I'm observing and I'm witnessing with this sort of critical watcher, witness, observer talking to me while I'm trying to go deep and get rid of the pain and get into a trance and get meditative. And I wasn't very successful. And in the frustration of that and trying to figure all that out, I thought, well, I have to figure something else out. So I talked to Dr. Erickson about it. I told him about my brother studying with Osho. In fact, I brought in one of the books to Milton Erickson, and that's the picture, and that's the book. Seriously? And I remember Milton Erickson, very interested, took it right away, wanted to read about it. We talked about Osho many, many times. I was fortunate that during that time I was figuring it out. Milton Erickson helped me write my first book called Self-Hypnosis. He wasn't so sure anybody could really write a book on self-hypnosis because he felt you had to learn like we are really together, experience it, tailor it, adjust, really individualize it. But he supported me writing it. And I was lucky enough that Prem gave this book to Osho. And that was interesting to me. So then when I was in Pune teaching how to go deeper into meditation with hypnosis techniques, I was invited into Osho's room and looked at all these books everywhere. And I was encouraged to take some out of the shelf. And I saw Osho had written in all of them and drawn sort of calligraphy type things. It was fascinating to observe what he was observing. And then I saw my book, pulled it right down, and I was like, oh my, he wrote in calligraphy and made notes all over my book. This is amazing. So of course I wanted to borrow the book, but I didn't think that was appropriate. So I left it there and just felt really great about it. So the overflow and the connection between Erickson and Osho, I introduced them through their books. They both were very interested in each other. There was a lot of the technique of observing, witnessing, watching, that totally in common. And yet it wasn't working for me. And towards the end of the third year, I had an epiphany, sort of a breakthrough of my own out of frustration and perseverance and not giving up and knowing I was with the greatest teachers who could teach me. And I was really up to me to learn. And I realized if I could let the observer, witness, watcher stay there, observe my pain, my body, my emotions, what's going on in my head, my heart, my spirit, everything. And then I could add a step where I could observe the observer that was observing my pain, my body, my mind, my heart, my spirit. So this second observer, not trying to get rid of the first one, keeping it there, was the breakthrough. Because from the second observer, watching the watcher that's watching me, observing the observer, you can follow me, I know that that was the breakthrough. That was the epiphany. Because for the first time, I was actually able to be so detached and yet still connected to my body that the pain diminished significantly. Didn't go away, but it was the most pain relief I had felt ever. And it was all because of the most powerful pharmacy in the world, the one between my ears that we all have, with trillions of possibilities. It seems impossible that pain control or dealing with emotions or mind issues or past issues or childhood trauma couldn't be helped, not fixed, changed, solved, gotten rid of, but could be helped, supported, and get it so it expands and becomes more relaxed, and then change is not only possible, it's inevitable. So this observing the observer was the breakthrough. And in discussing with Dr. Erickson, he said, yes, continue to do this. Sounds like you found something. Keep doing it, keep reporting to me. And I did, and I stayed with it. And one of the sort of jokes that I had with my brother, with Prem, in one of the conversations we would have, and I still use it to this day, is people say, so what's happening in your movie? You say, what's happening in the movie? What movie? Your movie. Oh yeah, my movie? Oh yeah. And what's happening in your movie? Oh yeah. So, okay, so I think it's because he was being very active as a writer and writing screenplays in Hollywood at the time and getting his writing career going. So everything to him was a movie. Like my friend Jack Tempchin, who writes songs for the Eagles. To him, everything's a song. He looks at street signs, he watches commercials, everything's a song. So with Prem, it was a movie. I thought, that's an interesting metaphor. I think I can utilize that with what I'm discovering about pain and how to use hypnosis with meditation. So the technique that I developed, and it's in my 9th book called Your Inner Voice, is really all about the movie. So the technique, and I want to walk you through it because the best way to learn is through the action of experience. If I talk and I give you information, goes in this ear, out the other, usually doesn't stay with people. And I happen to know this for a fact because one of the studies that I've been part of for 25 years, which is the largest study in the world on how emotions and upbringings affect us years and decades later. It's called the ACE study. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And the co-principal investigator of the study, which has about 85 articles now, including JAMA and medical journals all around the world. It's now in most countries. And it asks 10 questions about your childhood. And then it's been able to tell, based on your childhood experiences, what kinds of illnesses you get, what kind of addictions you'll get, even what age you'll die. So if you don't deal with these stresses, then you can potentially, and the science has shown this, take 19 years off of your life. So that's quite significant. So the ACE study is all about how stress impacts us. And particularly, it's relevant to hypnosis and meditation because if you don't deal with the stress, you internalize it, the pressure builds, and it becomes a real problem for your immune system. It's connected to and causes to a number of cancers, heart disease, immune system problems. So the science is in how we deal with our lives, what happens in our lives, impacts our immune system, our longevity, our quality of life. So finding techniques like we're about to do right now is what improves the quality of life, can add years to your life because you're actually releasing, resolving, not getting rid of it. I like this analogy, just before I begin this technique, that we're all like trees and we all have these rings of the trees inside of us. We still have our 1-year-old self, our 2-year-old self, our 3-year-old self, all the way up to our present ring, who we are right this moment. But you can't cut a tree down and dig out the drought and rainy years or the divorce and bankruptcy or the breakups or the health issues. You can't cut the rings out. They're with us, but they're teachers. So the idea is to resolve the issues and be in the present ring. Most people want to get rid of, I hear this all the time from people that I work with and train, they want to get rid of the bad years, get rid of the bad situations, cut out those years, dig it out. It just never happens. It's impossible. It's just part of who we are. So the movie technique to deal with our rings of the tree, I'm going to walk you through this right here, right now. It's usually better to close your eyes when you go through this. And as we go through the first 2 parts of the movie of your life, and then the first observer, which I have in the 15th row of the movie theater, because if you go to a play or a movie, the critics are always in the 15th row. They want to see the audience's responses. They want to see what's happening in the movie or in the play. And so the 15th row is the first observer, watcher, witness. And then the last row of the theater, that's the second observer, second watcher. That was my epiphany. That's my breakthrough. That's my real bridge between supporting meditation with hypnosis. But when you're in the movie in the 15th row, the first watcher, the critic, the judge, the never satisfied, the perfectionist, sounding familiar? You would be writing and doodling abstract art with your non-dominant hand. So everything you feel in the movie, your 15th row judge, critic, non-dominant. And then when you get to the last row, you use your dominant hand and do your best answers, find your own inner solutions, find your own best ideas of how to deal with your judge, lifetime membership, and how to deal with the rings of the tree, lifetime membership, all those feelings, the 10-year-old you, 15-year-old you, because you want your feelings in your first watcher, in my experience, to become non-dominant, and you want your second watcher observer, the true authentic you, the here and now, always present you, spontaneous, alive, to become dominant. So that's why I use this non-dominant to dominant, because you want your feelings and your judgments to become non-dominant, and your inner wisdom, inner doctor, to become dominant. So eyes closed, if they're not closed already. And there's 3 parts, I just described them: your movie, your 15th row critic, and your last row, your true authentic self, your inner wisdom, inner doctor. Non-dominant, non-dominant, dominant. And with your eyes closed, whether writing utensil or not, or imagining you have one, or doing it just in your mind, I want you to start with focusing on your movie. Now, the movie of your life is all about 3 things. What is happening in your body, head to toe, inside and out? What is happening in your relationships? All of them, including the one with yourself. And what is happening emotionally? I call this the committee meeting. One part of you may feel hopeful, another part hopeless. One part of you may feel afraid, another part of you may feel courageous. So lots of feelings. The interesting thing about your movie is whatever is happening emotionally is also happening in your body, and is also happening in your relationships. So however you're feeling emotionally, whatever's happening in your body, whatever's happening in your relationships, they mirror one another. They pretty much are always the same. So you can just focus on one and know what's happening with all 3. But this is the movie of your life. Maybe like 3 sides of the coin, heads, tails, and then the rim around it. Your relationships, your emotions, your body. You can pick one or have all 3. So the question is, what is happening right here, right now? What's your stream of consciousness? It can be from the past or in the present. If your body could talk, this would be the essential for real body language. What would your body say? I feel, I'm experiencing now. Maybe it's heavy, maybe it's light. Could be warm, cool, hot, cold, tingly. What is happening in your body? So you're giving your body a voice. If my body could talk, I would say, this is what's going on inside of me, my feet, my legs, my stomach, my head. The really important part about this first step in being in your movie 100% is that you are not trying to change anything. You're not trying to fix anything. You're not trying to get rid of anything. You're accepting everything as it is. And if you need a bridge to accepting whatever's going on in your body, or the fear, or the worry, the emotions, or your relationships, whatever's going on there, accept your breathing as it is. So there's no way you can do this wrong. There's nothing to do right. Just accept your breathing as it is. because your breathing is another mirror. When you accept your breathing as it is, you have a connection to accepting your body as it is, your feelings as they are, your relationships as they are, including the one with yourself. So this first step is all about becoming unconditionally accepting of what is, even if it's discomfort, fearful, stressful, worried, like you're breathing. Deep or shallow, belly or throat, it really doesn't matter. You're just accepting your breathing as it is. And now that you've allowed your body to have a voice, and you can continue with this, you can go to your emotions. If your fear could talk, what would your fear say? Chances are, and we all know this is true, fear developed very early, young ring of the tree, young ring of your tree. So it may feel like a child's voice, the child in you. It may feel like a teenager. It may feel like the present you. Let each of your committee members, each of your feelings just be accepted and expressed. I'm afraid of, I'm angry about, I'm confused about, I'm hopeful, I'm negative and pessimistic about, I'm lonely. All of the emotions, the whole committee, not trying to change, fix, get rid of, simply accepting, expressing, releasing. If you have pain, if your pain could talk, what would your pain say? Emotional pain, physical pain, relationship pain. So stay with your emotions, accepting and expressing, your inner committee members, your body, accepting and expressing, whatever's happening in the relationship with yourself, accepting and expressing. That's right. So there's no effort to change, fix, solve, or get rid of. It's quite the opposite. It's accepting, body language, body can talk, emotional language, all your emotions can talk, no matter if it's the 5-year-old you or the 10-year-old you, or youth now, or in age, anytime. Your relationships, what's going on with them, can talk, can express, talk out loud, talk to yourself. You go from your heart to your hand to the paper. So this is step one of how hypnosis supports meditation, utilizing the movie of your life. And I know you'll come back to this because your body will have more to say every day. Your emotions will be alive and need to be expressed and accepted every day. Relationship issues every day. So accepting, expressing, releasing, not trying to change, the movie of your life. That's step one. Now, step two. Like walking down the steps on the side of the stage, over to the center aisle, back to the 15th row where the first observer and the critic sits. And from the 15th row, from the critic perspective, what's wrong with this movie? What's wrong with this person? What's not perfect? What are you skeptical about? The acceptance, the body issues, the relationship stuff, the emotions. So you want to be the 15th row critic. And again, this will be the opposite of what almost everybody has learned and what everybody does 99% of the time. Most of the people I work with come because they want to get rid of their critic. They want to stop being negative. They want to stop being judgmental. And I tell them, much to their surprise and facilitate, it's the opposite. You want to be more critical, more judgmental, make a bigger ordeal about being perfect and what's wrong with the movie, be skeptical, doubtful, analyze, overthink. And again, if you're ever writing intentionally, scribbling, doodling with your non-dominant hand, be judgmental. Yes, it's true, like the rings of the tree, all the years of your life, your 15th row judge, critic, first observer, witness, has a lifetime membership. So you couldn't get rid of it with a lobotomy or a second lobotomy. Lifetime membership. So you might as well learn how to be critical and be judgmental and accept this and actually be more judgmental, more critical of your body. Come on, it's not perfect. Can't even trust your body from the 15th row. Emotions, very critical. What, are you kidding me? I'm a quadruple, multiple personality. I have way too many emotions. And I flip-flop, I run all over the place. I try all these things like overeating and smoking and drinking and every addiction on the planet to try to shut up all those emotions and detach from my body and deal with the conflicts from my relationships. And this 15th row judge critic is critical of all that. Why? What's the matter with you? You shouldn't have these problems in the first place. You know it's your fault. You know you're the big cause of this. So this first observer, this 15th row critic, double negatives, triple, quadruple. So much negativity, it's incredible. So the big move is to accept the judgments and be more judgmental. Accept the criticisms and be more critical. Don't worry, you'll never get stuck here again as you continue with what you're about to learn. But it's very important that this first observer, first watcher, witness is judgmental and free to be a perfectionist, just like the parent that trained you and all the generations before them. If you're not perfect, you're not okay. So this inner judge, inner critic, lifetime membership needs to be expressed and judgmental towards your body, your movie, your emotions, your relationships. You want to empty out here. And of course, it's going to fill back up and you'll empty out again. How often? Every day. How many times a day? It all depends on how negative and critical and judgmental your inner critic, inner judge, first observer, watcher is. But just like the committee and the movie and the feelings and your body and relationships, the judge has to be accepted and expressed and released because it'll be back. You're actually going to be learning how to have a collaborative relationship with your inner judge, which seems impossible. And right now it may be. And it's about to become possible. Because in your imagination, with your own creativity, you move from the 15th row back to the last row of the theater. Yeah, it's breathing, accepting your breathing as it is. This second observer, this last row of the theater, sees the critic and the judge in the 15th row, probably talking on the phone, talking during the movie, criticizing the movie the whole time. And the last row, second observer, understands that. That's the 15th row critic. That's my inner judge. That's my perfectionist, never satisfied. Yeah, I see them. I know where they were trained. I get it. And from the last row, you can also see the movie. What's happening in your relationships, what's happening in your body, what's happening emotionally. And from the last row perspective, if you have a right-handed stencil, now you're with your dominant hand because you want your last row to become dominant. And what are the best answers for dealing with my 15th row critic that has a lifetime membership? What are my best answers for dealing with all the rings of the tree? All my aces, all my adverse childhood experiences, traumas, difficulties, my emotions, my body. So this last row, you, is where you find your own best answers for dealing with pain, relationships, emotions, your inner critic. In this last row perspective, from my training with Milton Erickson, said this is the only thing you will ever ask anybody to memorize. Is the feelings, the colors, the imagery of a last row of a theater, the accepting, unconditional acceptance of the breathing, however it is. Able to see the 15th row, first observer critic, able to watch the movie, however you can. And this is the only thing he asked me to make sure I teach in my books, is to be able to get people to reinstate their own version, their own experience of being in this place where they could see their whole life with different eyes. See their 15th row, their emotions, their body, their relationships from a different perspective. And my lesson is from the first observer, it happens in the second observer. Everybody's going to have their own experience and their own creation of what it's like to observe the observer, observing the movie, or get to a place where they can accept and feel okay about an inner critic and a judge, perfectionist, and the feelings and the body and the relationships. So memorize this last row perspective. You know, one of my techniques from self-hypnosis, bridging, meditation, is inhale love and exhale your name. This can be a shortcut that works to the last row because Osho taught everybody that love is the most powerful healing force in the world. So the last row is the love row. This is where you find your spiritual solutions. So however you memorize this last row perspective through Osho, Erickson, breath work, love, the inhale, you name the exhale, maybe last row on the inhale, your name on the exhale, maybe be meditative on the inhales, your name on the exhales. Maybe borrowing from Erickson, Osho, and the ACE study and Dr. Folletti. Inhale, I accept myself unconditionally, and exhale your name. You're probably going to need that breath work with that phrase in your name a few more 100,000 times to make sure it gets integrated. Because the really important thing with hypnosis, supporting meditation, meaning the joy of being yourself, being with yourself, loving your presence, celebrating your life, is to be able to be last row. You know you have your 15th row, you know you have your movie. So integrating this into your daily life is the most important thing. Being able to reinstate it, that's my purpose. You integrating it, you creating your own version, it's your purpose. And there's a fourth step that we're adding for you. Thanks to Osho, Erickson, Dr. Fletty, all the teachers, the movie writer, KP, your inner wisdom, your true authentic self. The fourth step is to, in your imagination, get up from the last row. Walk down to the 15th row. Get the judge, probably not going to want to hold your hand. Judges aren't going to do that probably, but you never know. Miracles happen. And last row you, 15th row you, walk down the center aisle, over to the steps on the side of the stage, up the stage, and walk right into the move. So now here is the last row you, your inner wisdom, present ring of the tree, true authentic self, with your 15th row critic, judge, perfectionist, never satisfied, never good enough part of you. And all of your committee members, all your feelings, your body, what's happening in your relationships. And from Native American, Indian, rituals and training, it's time for a powwow. Conversation. Communication is the key. Acceptance is essential. So your last row, communicating with your 15th row, communicating with everything happening in your movie, your committee members, your emotions, your body, what's happening in your relationships. So this powwow could go on for a while. And by the way, you could never practice this too much, because this is how you let go. The communication, the dialoguing. Now you might be using your non-dominant and dominant hand at the same time. Last row, feelings, judge. I can't even imagine the conversation they'd be having. And it goes on and on and on. We all know the most powerful communication in the world between people, and certainly between what's happening now in your movie, is when one person's unconscious inner self communicates with another person's unconscious inner self. That's it. That's the most powerful communication possible. And now you're creating this within yourself, with your last row, your second observer, communicating with your first observer, your judge, communicating with your feelings, your body, your relationship story. And it's probably a lot of what is going on? What are we going to do? What are you doing? How are you? How are you? What do you want to say? What do you want to say? So this dialogue goes on and on. Last row, 15th row, feelings, committee members. So you'll come back to this, you'll practice this. There is gold in this. Great resolutions of how to coexist, collaborate, are going to happen from this. And when you're ready, I know you will have more to do. I know you want to come back to this. Allow, because you're just learning this, you're just planting the seeds of how to do this. We know it's amazing how much can grow from one seed. Look at a redwood tree. And allow the 15th row critic judge in the last row to walk out of the movie, down the steps on the side of the stage, back up to the center aisle. 15th row judge sits in the 15th row. Last row goes all the way back to the last row, second observer. And now, from the last row, from your innermost self, from your present ring of the tree, who you really are right here, right now, your present ring. You know you have all your early years, early rings, part of who you are. And you want to resolve and deal with all of that on the stage like you just started, and live and be the present ring. So the early rings are there, but you want to be in the present ring as much as possible. That's what happens every time you're in the last row. So now from the last row, before we finish, what are the best resolutions, the best answers, best ideas, how to integrate this into your daily life, how to deal with your 15th row, how to deal with all those emotions and feelings in your body and your relationships. This is when you come up with your best answers. The pain, whether it's childhood, emotional, physical, relationships, or just general challenges and issues that come up all the time. What are the best answers from your last row perspective? So you can integrate your new learning, your new feelings, your new understandings into your everyday life. So you might have a lot, might be one word, might be an image. You might not have anything, and it may not come up until you're having a daydream later today or tonight in your dreams. Or tomorrow or the next day when you're walking and not thinking about this at all, your last row appears. And some new understandings come in, some new ideas, some new resolutions. You can trust your last row because it's your present, spontaneous, in the moment self. It's your inner wisdom, it's your intuition, where you get your spiritual solutions. That's right. So whatever's coming up, like seeds in the garden, you can write them down, you can just say them out loud, you can know what you know and what you're figuring out. You can look forward to being pleasantly surprised when it comes up, when you're meditating or doing self-hypnosis, or just in the zone doing something completely different, or not really doing anything related to this at all, and your inner wisdom, your inner doctor is ready to give you some answers. Can't control this. Can't control yourself. It's about freedom and allowing. So maybe finish with your breathing. Love on the inhales, your name on the exhales. You know, breathing is a cellular experience. Every cell in your being needs your breath. So when you inhale and exhale with this, it goes into every cell in your being. And you know all of this is very healthy for your immune system. Science is in, there's no question about it. Meditation is very healthy and helpful for your immune system. And the science has shown that when meditation includes what we are doing, the hypnosis, the creative visualizations, the guided imagery, the meditations are much more effective scientifically for your immune system, for your health, for your healing. So all of the science is proving what we are doing together and what we've known intuitively or practiced. That visualization, guided imagery, the self-hypnosis, hypnosis techniques, as we are learning them together with your meditation is extremely good for you. Great for your health, for your longevity, your quality of life, your immune system, your cells. If anybody wants more about the science, I'll share all of the articles with you that have proven this. And I'll tell you just in finishing that Milton Erickson was a real taskmaster as a teacher. I remember when I was writing my dissertation, I wanted to compare direct techniques where you basically had instructions to give to people in hypnosis and self-hypnosis versus indirect techniques, which are more personalized and creative and imaginative. And you don't tell anybody what to do at all. And I wanted to see what kinds of people responded to each one and which one was better. And I was sure the indirect approach was much better. And of course, maybe, as he said, maybe some people want the direction. So this is what I did my dissertation on. It was the first study ever done, and it's still widely read around the world. So I was really ambitious about it, and writing a dissertation, you usually need 20, 30 references and lots of reading, lots of studying. But because Milton Erickson was one of my readers, one of the people involved in my dissertation, he brought in stacks of books, hundreds of references that he insisted that I read, study, include, report on. I thought, oh my goodness, just getting through it was going to be enough. The typical 20, 30 references was more than enough. Why hundreds? Because he said, this is what you need to understand to really make this an important research project. So I took some deep, satisfying, let go breaths. By this time, I started to develop the last row perspective, thank goodness, because my 15th row would have gone crazy. My feelings would have said, forget it. But that's Milton Erickson. If you want to learn something, learn everything you can. If you want to become a person who has self-mastery, meditation, or self-hypnosis, or creative visualization, or guided imagery, learn everything possible. And remember, you're a lifelong learner. You'll never stop learning. You can never learn enough. So that was the influence of Milton Erickson. And that's the movie technique. So it's 1, 2, 3, movie 15th row, last row. 4, last row, brings the 15th row into the movie with the committee and all these parts of you, has the powwow, all the communication, back to the 15th row, back to the last row. If you practice this on your own, you're going to find one of the master keys is when the last row communicates with the 15th row. And those two go back and forth, what Milton Erickson called the entrance-exit technique. You go to the 15th row, last row, they communicate, go back to the last row, back to the 15th row, do it so much that you develop a mastery. So every time you're in the 15th row, you can easily get to the last row by being in the last row and getting to the 15th row and always ending up in the last row. So whenever you practice this 1, 2, 3, 4, or you do 1, 2, 3, Every time you deal with emotions or judgment, perfectionist, body, feelings, you always, 100% of the time, want to finish in the last row. So there's peace of mind, relaxation, you get some answers, even if it's I don't know, that's okay. You'll be able to relax about I don't know. And that will evolve. But again, you're accepting whatever you come up with, no matter what. And that's the movie technique. So I hope you enjoy your movie even more from now on. Hope you learn to love your movie from the last row. You're probably not going to love your movie from the 15th row critic. There's not that much that's that lovable. And it's hard to love it when you're in the middle of everything, emotionally, relationship, body. So always finish in the last row. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Last row. Your name. I accept myself unconditionally on the inhale, your name on the exhale. Love on the inhales, your name on the exhales. Be meditative on the inhales, name on the exhales. Now, by now, you're probably able to describe your movie as absurd, perhaps, science fiction in some ways, a drama, a mystery, a comedy, probably the last row where you really have your sense of humor. It's not that funny from the 15th row. 15th row critic's very serious, life serious. Gotta be judgmental, gotta look for all the errors, spoke so much wrong. So it's not really that funny. 15th row people don't usually laugh that much. Usually very serious. And we're in the 15th row. We don't laugh very much, we're serious. And that's okay. We know it has a lifetime membership. So we're accepting of that. We're going to develop unconditional acceptance of our inner judge. Now you talk about miracles, that's a miracle. And you're capable of that. It's just going to take a while. That's why the entrance exit between the 15th row, last row, back and forth, that interaction is as important as when the last row and the 15th row go into the movie and have the powwow. So all of you is there and then finish in the last row. This last row, 15th row, has been gold, especially for people who are very serious and people that are very self-critical. Are critical of other people. Not any of you, I realize that. But if it were you, or maybe when you get like that, it's going to be very important to be accepting and communicative and go back and forth and be able to be the whole you, the total you, because that's the truth. All the rings of the tree. You just want to be the present ring as much as possible. So one of the techniques, if you're ready for another technique, ready for another technique? Okay. And we'll utilize some of what you just learned so that it's easier to go deeper and get more involved in this, is going to, again, connect with guided imagery and visualization. What really makes your meditation even healthier and more effective in all kinds of ways. And that's the hypnosis, self-hypnosis part, is the utilization of visualization and guided imagery. Now, you're not surprised by this. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if they're not closed already. And the reason for that is we all know as soon as we close our eyes, we automatically go inside. With our eyes open, we tend to be concerned about what people are thinking about us, and we tend to be more external. So we all know we have an outside self, an inside self. Oftentimes those are very different. The outside self is more of the show that people put on for other people, of how you want people to think of you. And the inside is usually 15th row, more critical, more judgmental. But we just added the whole present ring of the tree approach, allowing for the outside you, how you want people to think of you, your persona, your social identity, your inner judge, inner critic, never satisfied, never good enough. We've added a way to bring it all together, all those rings of the tree, all those trainings, all those special abilities you have, to be the present ring, last row, in the moment, who you really are. So with your eyes closed, if they're not closed already, I want you to imagine that you're in a beautiful location with trees and a meadow and blue skies, and just sort of a heaven on earth place, a place that you really love to be, very peaceful. And you're by yourself and it feels safe and it's comfortable. There's really no one to bother you. There's nothing to disturb you. There's no one to take care of. And you're going for a walk. So nice. The trees, the birds, the sky, temperature, the mood, everything just feels really, really good. You can even ask yourself this question or any question like it out loud or to yourself. How relaxed can I feel right now? I'm out here in Mother Nature. How relaxed can I feel right now? Keep asking yourself that question. Or any question like it. How relaxed can I feel right now? Until you are relaxed as much as you desire, feel as comfortable as possible, maybe more comfortable than you thought you would. Maybe the more you practice this, the more we do this together today, the more comfortable you get. How relaxed can I feel right now? And as you're walking through the trees, you see there's a big meadow, you see there's a lot of land, a lot of space, no one's here but you. Except way down the path, the biggest tree in the whole forest, there's a young person. Can't really see who it is, how old they are, sitting at the base of the tree. And you're curious because no one else is around, no one else is here. So you continue walking in that direction anyway. Biggest tree, whole forest, young person, sitting at the base of the tree. Can't tell if it's a boy or a girl, a teen or a little kid. Just seems surprising that there'd be a little kid, young kid sitting at the base of the tree in the middle of the forest. And as you get closer and closer, you see for sure this is a person, for sure this is a child. And keep going, get closer and closer. And you walk right up to the child, right at this base of the tree, the biggest tree in the forest. And you realize this child is you. It's the young you, the little you. Whatever age, the size, the first thing you do when you see this child and you realize it's you, is you reach out and you hug each other and hold each other. Maybe in a way that neither one of you have been hugged or held in a while. You stay with this. Stay with this hug. Stay with this holding. You hugging the child so lovingly, so much with your whole self, mind, body, heart, and soul. And this child is hugging you back, bringing you close. There's so much love, giving and receiving both ways. Like as much love as a person can ever feel is happening right here, right now in the moment. And just stay like this hugging and holding. Non-verbal, but so expressive, so real, so powerful. You stay with it, stay with it. And of course, there's going to be a lot of things that you want to say to this child. And you can now. Maybe warning the child about certain people, certain situations. Perhaps some encouragement about being real and authentic, and trust yourself, keep learning. Whatever it is that you would love to tell this child, you do now. Say it out loud, say it to yourself, say it directly to the child. Everything that you wish this child will need to know. So you're telling the child everything you can about life, about people, about the family, about themselves, about nature, animals, anything and everything. And perhaps, to your surprise, the child wants to say some things to you. And maybe warn you about certain situations or people. Maybe encourage you in certain ways. Maybe give you some love and support that's important to you. And as you continue, this conversation goes both ways. This is that experience, an example of unconscious to unconscious, deepest self to deepest self, true authentic to true authentic. The most powerful communication in the world. Back and forth, everything and anything, encouraging, supporting, advising, warning, caring, compassionate, friendly. And then everything the child has for you. So often the wisdom of a child can be a big wake up for a grown-up sized kid like you are now. So back and forth, a real conversation, a real dialogue. Everything and anything that's ever needed to be said or felt or communicated non-verbally or verbally, now's the time. Of course, you're going to be able to come back to this experience as much and as often as you wish. This is always here for you. You can feel it. You can feel how important and valuable this is. At some point It'll be time for the grown-up sized kid, the adult, to walk down the path that started all of this, to you now, to get up and leave. There's no rush, there's no hurry. Do this as long or as short, as often as you wish. Just when you are ready, you get up, you reassure both ways, this will continue. This connection is forever, like rings of the tree, this relationship, the movie. And with a whole new view of self-compassion, love, communication, connection, rings of the tree, with a bigger feeling of richness in your heart, in your head, in your body, in your spirit. Knowing you'll be back, you'll both be here again and again. You walk back up the path that you started. All the trees are amazing. The sky is even more blue. The trees are even more detailed. The colors even more amazing. The birds' songs are music to your ears. And you keep walking. So supported and appreciative that you'll be back. You can continue this as often, as many times as you love. And you keep going, keep walking. Soon you're out of the woods. Keep going soon. You journey all the way back to where you started before any of this occurred today. And you bring yourself back to the present ring of the tree in your everyday life, who you are emotionally, physically, your relationships, which feel bigger and more important, more relaxing, perhaps. Your 15th row is always available and there for you to be skeptical and doubtful. Wonder why perfect is transforming into perfectly okay. That's going to be a big adjustment for the 15th row. It can only happen with the help of your last row. And then all the way back to your last row perspective. The deep, satisfying, let go breaths. Your inhale love, exhale your name. Your inhale, I accept my whole self unconditionally. Exhale your name. Inhale last row. Exhale your name. And just accepting your breathing as it is. Enjoying the journey as well as the results. Enjoying that you're planting so many seeds today that it's going to be very entertaining and interesting to see what grows inside of you from all of this. As Milton Erickson would say, the positive view is the realistic view. Like in Mother Nature, the flower that grows out of the sidewalk, the flowers that grow from weeds, all the different songs of all the birds. Every person on the planet is unique and different with unique personal needs. There are no repeats. So take your time. Present ring of the tree, who you are right here, right now. Maybe stretch a little bit if you want to stretch after all that inner exercise and inner evolution and inner expansion. So there's no shrinking, there's no therapy analyzing, overthinking, except when you're in the 15th row. Last row is expansive, like your breaths, like your movie, like your love, your life. If you want to, you can ask yourself that question that we started with. How relaxed can I feel right now? How relaxed can I feel right now? And it may feel like the little child in you, the early rings, the teens, 20s, all the different ages, all the different rings are able to be more relaxed. How relaxed can I feel right now? And then doing not stress management, but stretch management. And stretch it out, stretch it out. You just stretched your mind, your heart, your head, your spirit. So stretch it out, stretch management. Yeah, that's right. So
tell me what makes you weary. Tell me what lights up your